The internet computer allegedly saw 120,000 total commits. What does that even mean? I'll discuss that in today's video, and I'll also discuss the almost 7% recovery in the past 24 hours. But I first want to clarify, nothing I say is financial advice. I'm not telling anyone to do anything, and this is just my personal review and perspective. So according to ChainSpec, the internet computer saw 120,000 commits. What does that even mean, though? Well, here's the thing. Total commits, basically, in this case, is viewed as the lifetime volume of core protocol code changes. And now the reason why people view this in high regard at times is because a higher total commits is generally seen as better, according to some people, because it showcases more active, sustained development work on the blockchain's core protocol. Let me just give this as an example. It's like, for instance, let's say someone bought a car and they said, hey, you know what? I modified the car 50 times for whatever reason. Now, does it mean the car got way better? Does it mean the car became just more awesome overall? Not necessarily, but sometimes if we take a look at someone modifying a car, we view it as, oh, wow, that sounds pretty cool. Maybe they improved it, right? It's kind of similar when it comes to this case. The more commits does not necessarily mean that it became better or more popular. It doesn't always mean that, but what it showcases is that there is at least some activity going on, which is not necessarily a bad thing in my opinion, just because if I take a look at it, guess what, right? The internet computer had more total commits than Solana, than something like Tezos, allegedly, according to this chart, even more than Hedera, Sui, Stellar, Algorand, Aptos, and of course many others, because in this chart, actually, the internet computer was ranked 9th in the world. Now, again, this does not mean that the internet computer became the best of the best in 2026. No, it doesn't mean that. But I think this is a pretty crucial statistic because if only 8 other projects were able to surpass the internet computer in that specific category, I think it means something. Now, if the internet computer was like ranked 200th or whatever when it comes to this chart, okay, then maybe it's a different case. But again, it's ranked 9th in the world and only 8 could overtake it, which is quite legendary, I think, at a time like right now. And if I want to take a look at it, the internet computer, again, recovering almost 7% in the past 24 hours. Now, this is not a time yet where I want to be dancing, because to me, the internet computer just back in November of last year was at around $9. So really, in the grand scheme of things, like anything even below $5, according to a lot of people, is still very bad. And even $9 wasn't even that good anyways, according to a lot of people, just last year, because the peak of the internet computer in 2024 was like, what, around 20 bucks, right? So $9 wasn't even that good. However, I'm not going to complain about this, because if there is a project that I do like fundamentally and it's having a pretty decent recovery, why would I complain? That's just my mindset. Now, people oftentimes like to tell me, but the internet computer, with all this going on, who really cares about whatever is happening to the statistics, the updates regarding, let's say, Caffeine AI or Multidex or whatever. But again, like I mentioned time and time again, these type of things sometimes don't really matter until sometimes they do. For instance, let me use this as an example. Cardano didn't really matter until it eventually did. That's the way I take a look at it. And also, when I take a look at the internet computer, it didn't matter until in 2024, suddenly it mattered a lot. So that's the thing. Yeah, sure, it's had a decrease ever since 2024, but I'm just saying, if the market were to recover, at least in the past, we've seen that on some occasions, the internet computer did kind of tag along with the market. Some other projects get left behind, by the way. Not every single project kind of mirrors the market in a sense. Now, will the internet computer do that again? Moving forward, we'll wait and see. But as of right now, the space recovering a couple percent, the internet computer has kind of followed suit a little bit, recovering around 7% in the past 24 hours. But again, this is not a moment yet where I want to be dancing or going to Sizzler, the restaurant. And the reason why is because we're still over 3 times away than November of last year. So it's not like anything that I'm super excited about. But I'm not going to complain about this. But I also think that this moment kind of showcases to me that the journey still seems quite far, it feels like, just because if we want to take a look at the ceiling of this in 2024, it's like we're almost 10 times away from that, right? So the journey is actually still very far. Even back to November of last year, the journey is still over 3 times. But you know what? I digress. That remains to be seen. I'm still waiting. And the reason why, even though I'm not telling anyone to do anything, and even though it's purely voluntary on my part, is because I don't even feel like this is anything too much in the grand scheme of things. Many projects out there are still down like over 90%, over 80% than last year and also the year before. So it's not like anything too sort of significant, this recovery, but I'm not going to complain. Now, personally, I am still dollar cost averaging approximately once a month. That's it. But again, that's just me. I can't speak on anyone's behalf, and I'm not telling anyone to do anything. Now, a moment like this, even though the recovery has been very slight, I think showcases that there is no way for me to know when things will ever recover. Like in terms of the timing, there's no way, because a lot of people were pulling up charts, drawing random triangles and saying, oh, you know, things are just going to go down like a further 50, 70% or whatever. Then suddenly we saw this, you know? So at times we don't really know when things will change in terms of the timing. That's kind of my mindset, which is why I never try to guess. I don't want to ever find the quote unquote perfect moment because I'll never be able to find that. What I like to do instead is just hold, and I'm just waiting in case. That's it. I mean, I don't have to, but that's just me. I don't want to try to find the perfect moment. I'll never be able to find it. That's just my style, though. I'm more about just waiting, because if I'm just waiting and suddenly the market were to recover, I could be sleeping, I could be watching a movie or whatever. It's just kind of like automatically going along with the ride because I've just been waiting the entire time anyways. You know, I wasn't trying to find the quote unquote perfect moment. I wasn't trying to find the quote unquote bottom, because even though we do know that the historical bottom when it comes to the internet computer is $1.98, even though we do know that, we don't know if it's the actual true bottom forever, right? Which is why I never try to find the perfect bottom, if that kind of makes sense. I'm just trying to keep it consistent. I treat it like a marathon. I don't treat it like a sprint. Personally, again, I'm just dollar cost averaging once a month that way. If I dollar cost average a little bit higher and sometimes a little bit lower, it kind of evens itself out over the long haul. So then, again, by doing that, I'm also just kind of waiting the entire time. I'm just focused on time inside the market as opposed to trying to time it, if that kind of makes sense. They're on a computer, it's not going to be ever as cool as like a Pepe or like a Shiba Inu or Dogecoin. No, I don't think so, but it makes up for it in other ways, in a sense where it has the fundamentals and use case. So yes, Shiba Inu, Dogecoin, and Pepe, even with the slight recovery, they're still down quite a lot from their previous peaks, right? So is the internet computer. But the internet computer is trying to make it through a market downturn through a different style, like through the use case and the fundamentals, whereas Shiba Inu, Dogecoin, and Pepe and all that, even though arguably some people say, oh, they are improving in terms of the use case, but besides that, they're more so surviving based off the cool factor and the community. So each project within this space still has its own way to kind of make it through. And it needs to have a key aspect of it. It needs to have an it factor. And I think the it factor, hypothetically in this case, is the use case, not necessarily the interesting vibe or something like that. So yeah, besides that point though, I'm just still waiting and holding. And again, even though I'm not telling anyone to do anything, I just thought it was pretty cool seeing 120,000 total commits so far in 2026 when it comes to their computer, but I'll be sure to make more updates moving forward. I want to say thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all have a very wonderful, spectacular, amazing, and very wonderful day. It's been Lee the Captain.